Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.
Dear students, welcome to Inside Delhi. In this video, we are going to discuss GS Prism Mains Test Series program from the topic Climate Change and Pollution. Okay, let's see what are there in this test paper. So, as we know, there are total 10 questions in this paper. Out of these 10 questions, 5 questions are of 10 marker and 5 questions are of 15 marker. And we know, right? So 10 marker questions, we need at least 7 minutes, means we need to complete within 7 minutes, and this 15 marker we need to complete in 11 minutes. So 5 sevens, 35 minutes it will take, and 5 11s, 55. So total if we combine together, 90 minutes, that is 1.5 hours. So okay, so 20 questions, 3 hours. Okay, so this format has to be followed. If it is practiced from now itself, then only you can complete all the 20 questions in the final mains exam. So let's start the paper. So let's read the first question. Explain the scientific basis of climate change. So they're asking scientific, what is the scientific basis of climate change? How do greenhouse gases alter the Earth's energy balance? Okay, greenhouse gases, how they are altering the Earth's energy balance and lead to global warming. So there are subparts in this question, so we need to address what the subparts. So what is climate change? Okay, so climate change is nothing but the long-term shifts, whatever that are occurring. So all these things of the climate are part of this climate change. So let's read. Climate change refers to long-term shifts in the Earth's climatic patterns, primarily driven today by anthropogenic activity. So whatever the long-term shifts that are occurring in the Earth's climatic patterns, all these things are part of climate change. Okay, so we know, right? See, the scientific basis, okay, of this climate change entirely rests upon the greenhouse effect. So what we'll see, what is this greenhouse effect? We know, right? Sun releases a lot of radiation, right? So sun's radiations, whatever that are there, they will come in the form of shortwave radiations towards the Earth's surface, and whenever they reaches the Earth's atmosphere, and Earth's atmosphere acts as a transparent medium for the incoming solar radiations, which are nothing but shortwave radiations. Okay, once the shortwave radiations reaches the Earth's surface, they will warm the Earth's surface. Okay, once Earth's surface becomes warm, it will re-radiate, or it will release long wave radiations back into the atmosphere. Okay, so these long wave radiations are nothing but infrared radiations. Okay, so once they are released or re-radiated by the Earth's surface, which are nothing but called as terrestrial radiation. Okay, so while they are going back, Earth's atmosphere is not anymore transparent for this terrestrial radiation. Okay, so for example, there are certain gases in our atmosphere which will try to absorb some of this terrestrial radiation. Once these gases absorbs this terrestrial radiation, they will become warm and they will try to re-radiate or release the heat whatever they have observed. So in a way I can say the energy whatever that is released is once again trapped by these gases whatever that are present in our atmosphere, and they will re-radiate continuously. It will happen within this atmosphere, and the temperature of our Earth's atmosphere will keep on increasing. So this absorption of these heat whatever that is radiated by the Earth's surface, okay, by different gases, okay, right? So these gases are called as greenhouse gases, and the phenomena which is leading to increase of temperature because of these greenhouse gases is called as greenhouse effect. Okay, so this is fine, this is a normal thing, and it is occurring naturally only. Okay, because see, if these gases are not present in our atmosphere, whatever the terrestrial radiation that are released by the Earth, they entirely will go back into the space, right? So in that case, as the entire radiations are released back into the space, Earth's surface will become very, very cold. Okay, so that cold temperatures will even reach to the minus degrees, minus 15 degrees, minus 18 degrees, like that it will reach. So at that lower temperatures, it's very, very difficult for any species to survive, right? So in a way, this greenhouse effect, which is a natural phenomena, is helping the species for survival on the Earth's surface. But what is happening today is because of anthropogenic activities like man-made events, like release of carbon dioxide or other greenhouse gases because of, okay, coal burning or fossil fuel burnings, all these things, okay, the concentration of greenhouse gases are increasing in the atmosphere. For example, okay, earlier certain gases are there, okay, few limited gases. But now as the concentration of these gases are increasing, this terrestrial radiation whatever that is going, more and more terrestrial radiations will be trapped. More terrestrial radiations are trapped means more re-radiation will be occurring, so more and more temperature will increase. So this more and more temperature increase is nothing but called as, okay, global warming. See, this global warming is ultimately leading to what is called as climate change. So this is the scientific mechanism behind the whatever the climate change or greenhouse effect that is taking place, okay. So but what are these natural greenhouse gases that are occurring, okay? For example, okay, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide and water vapor, these are some of the naturally occurring greenhouse gases, okay, which are trying to trap some of this outgoing infrared radiation, maintaining Earth's average temperature at around 15 degrees, which I have discussed, right? But now this is the natural phenomena, but now what is happening? The concentration of these greenhouse gases are increasing. So because of whom, okay, the atmospheric concentration of greenhouse gases are rising sharply due to what? Industrialization. Because once more and more industries are occurring means, okay, established means more and more gases will be released into the atmosphere, right? So because of industrialization, because of fossil fuel combustion, because of deforestation, okay, because of agricultural intensification. For example, deforestation is nothing but, see, if forest is cut down, okay, generally forest will act as a carbon sink. That is nothing but whatever the atmospheric carbon dioxide is there, these forests will try to trap some of this carbon dioxide. But now as forest is removed, the sink has been reduced on one hand. On the other hand, okay, once the cut down forest is burned, they will release more and more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So this is one negative. And agricultural intensification, we know, right, agriculture is one of the highest contributor to the methane, okay, especially paddy cultivation and livestock. So if this is intensified, okay, what will happen? More and more methane, that is nothing but greenhouse gas, okay, nitrous oxides, everything will be released into the atmosphere. So these are all causing what is called as increasing in the greenhouse gases, which is leading to the greenhouse effect. For example, if you see the concentration of CO2, okay, compared to the pre-industrial level, if you see, it is hardly 280 ppm, okay, but now today if you see, it is more than 420 ppm, means we can see the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is keep on increasing. So what will happen if it is increasing? This enhanced greenhouse effect creates a positive radiative forcing, disturbing the Earth's energy balance, okay. What is this one? See, there are two terms which is called positive radiative forcing and negative radiative forcing. See, positive radiative forcing is nothing but those things which are leading to increase in the temperature of Earth's atmosphere, and negative radiative forcing is those which are leading to reduction in the temperature of Earth's atmosphere. The combination of this is nothing but called as radiative forcing, okay. So especially these greenhouse gases are leading to increase in the temperature of the Earth, and there are certain aerosols, okay. So those aerosols are leading to cooling down of Earth's temperature, that is negative radiative forcing. So what is happening here? As global warming, that is greenhouse effect, is leading to increase in the temperature, so it is having a positive radiative forcing, disturbing the Earth's energy balance, okay. So, and also, how can we prove this one? So majority of the climatic models, whatever that are there, they are attributing that more than 90% of that observed warming since mid 20th century are related to human-induced greenhouse gas emissions, okay. Apart from that, even IPCC, okay, which releases reports, okay, so it has also told that already climate change is occurring, and those events because of climate change are evidently seen, okay. So for example, if you see the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports show unequivocal warming evident from rising global average temperature. According to IPCC, from pre-industrial level, there is an increase of 1.1 degree centigrade of temperature. And also, because of increasing of temperature, what is happening? Shrinking of ice sheets, retreating of glaciers, sea level rise, and increased frequency of extreme weather events like floods are increasing, cyclones are increasing, droughts, everything are very frequently occurring, okay. So these are all the things that are evidently seen because of the climate change, okay. So what we have to know is, see, we know the mechanism of greenhouse effect, right? So if we take proper measures, okay, like investing in green technologies which will release less emissions, okay, so then we can reduce the global warming and the consequences effect of climate change. All these things can be reduced, okay, so that we can focus more on mitigation and adaptation strategies, okay. So let's read the second question. Discuss the major impacts of climate change on ecosystem and biodiversity. So major impacts of climate change on ecosystem and biodiversity. How does it threaten ecological balance and human well-being? So how it is threatening? So we'll see, okay. So Climate change profoundly alters ecosystem and biodiversity by modifying temperature, because we have seen in the earlier question, right, temperature is increasing, and precipitation, I told you that erratic rainfall is occurring in some regions are getting drought. Okay, so modifying temperature, precipitation, and also impacting the habitat conditions also. Okay, so for example, if you see, any species should have a kind of stable conditions for its proper reproduction and its survival. Okay, if temperature or any that conditions whatever that are there, if those conditions are frequently changing, then the survival of those species will become very, very difficult. Okay, so that's why if you see, species survival depends on stable environmental conditions, and the rapid climate change shift often outpace their adaptive capacity, because these species cannot adapt to the rapid change of any temperature variations, all these things, so their extinction will be very, very, chances are very high. Okay, so what are the impacts of this climate change? So loss of habitat. Okay, habitat is nothing but the place where these species are living or surviving, right? For example, if you see, because of climate change, what is happening? Temperatures are increasing, so polar regions, whatever ice caps are there, right, they are melting. But we know, right, in polar ice caps, certain prominent species are there. Polar bear is there, and also penguins are there. Okay, so they will try to reside over these ice caps, but because of global warming, these ice are melting. Once these ice are melting means these polar bears and penguins cannot survive, because there is nothing for them to stay, right? So their survival will be impacted. Apart from that, coral reefs also, we know coral reefs are very, very sensitive to warming of temperature, and because of global warming, ocean temperature is increasing, acidification is occurring. Because of that, a phenomena which is occurring, which is called as coral bleaching. Okay, once coral bleaching is occurred, okay, then the food chain which is starting from the oceans, especially from the corals, will be reduced. Okay, because we know these corals are called as tropical rainforest of the world. Okay, so biodiversity is very, very high near this coral reefs. Okay, food chain, everything is started, but once they are getting impacted, then the ocean biodiversity will get impacted. Okay, so apart from that, changing climates also disturbs species distribution and migration patterns. Okay, so how? Because see, for example, this is the equator, 0 degrees, and this zone is tropical zone. Okay, so let us assume tropical zones is having somewhere around 20 degrees centigrade, and this is temperate zone, which is having, assume the temperature is somewhere around 15 degrees. Okay, and this is the polar region, assume the temperature is around 10 degrees. Okay, here it is 10, here it is 10 degrees, polar region. Assume because of global warming, assume 5 degrees of temperature has been increased throughout the globe. Okay, so here 5 degrees is increased, 5, so 5. So overall, what is the temperature here? 25, 15, and here, sorry, here it is 20, and here it is 15 degrees temperature has been increased. And earlier we have discussed, right, species should need a stable condition to survive. So earlier, whatever the species that are there in the tropical region, they have adapted to 20 degrees centigrade temperature, right? But now this 20 degrees temperature has been shifted to these temperate zones because of the global warming. So all these species, whatever earlier were surviving here, they will try to migrate here. Okay, and those species which have survived at 15 degrees, now the 15 degrees temperature has went to polar region, so these species will try to migrate here. But what about the species which are residing in the polar region? There is no geographical region, right, to shift. So because of that one, extinction of these species will occur. So what we can say is, geographically these species, whatever that are there, they are migrating towards the polar region or towards the higher altitudes, because we know as we increase the altitude, the temperature will also reduce, right? So either they are moving towards polar regions, or altitude wise also these species are migrating. Is it clear? So what are the threats to ecological imbalance? Okay, so altered rainfall and also frequent droughts, what they are impacting is the plant flowering periods or fruiting periods, everything is impacting. And also once they are impacted means, and erratic rainfall, droughts will also reduce the crop yield also. Okay, so once crop yield is reduced, then it will impact the food security or food chain, everything. Okay, so altered rainfall patterns and frequent droughts, okay, affect plant phenology and crop yields, threatening food chains, all these things. And also apart from that, invasive alien species, whatever that are there, they can survive very easily in the warm conditions, and also the pest spread will also increase. Once pests are increasing means agriculture output will be reduced, right? So invasive alien species better adapt to warm conditions, pest outbreaks in the agriculture are intensifying, all these things will be there on ecology. And threats to human well-being, see, every ecosystem is providing some services to the human. For example, it will provide water, clean water, okay, pollination, fisheries, forest resources, everything will get understrained because biodiversity is reducing, right? It is getting impacted because of the climate change. So every service will get strained, that will have direct impact on human well-being. Apart from that, loss of biodiversity even weakens the ecological resilience also. See, more the biodiversity, more the ecological resilience will be there. But now the biodiversity is being reduced. Okay, so because of the reduction of biodiversity, resilience will also get reduced. And this biodiversity or ecology, whatever that is there, that is acting as a buffer. Okay, for example, if you see, reducing the capacity of ecosystem to buffer extreme events like floods and storms. Okay, now as the biodiversity is reducing, okay, so it will have negative impact through these floods and storms. Okay, is it clear? So apart from that, indigenous communities and the rural population, generally they depend more on the natural resources, and they are very, very disproportionately affected because of this climate change related things. Okay, so according to IPCC, around 20 to 30% of species will become, and means they will come under direct threat because of increase of temperature to somewhere around 1.5 to 2 degrees. More than the temperature is increasing, then this much amount of species will become extinct. Okay, so what we can do? Ultimately, conservation effort should be there, and whatever the habitat that has been damaged, that habitat has to be restored, and also climate resilient policy should also be there, so that, which is very essential for sustaining the planetary balance and human survival. Okay, so both should go balance. Okay, then only the progress will be there. Okay, is it clear? So let's go to the next question. Critically examine the socio-economic impacts of climate change on developing countries like India. So examine the socio-economic impacts they are asking on the climate change, especially on the developing countries like India. Suggest measures to mitigate and adapt. So what are the things we need to do so that we can do mitigation and adaptation? So what are these impacts, okay, on the developing countries? See, the problem with the developing countries is, first thing, they don't have any capacity. If any changes are occurring, to adapt to those changes, we don't have that much capacity, because most of these countries are developing, means the population here are poor, right? So apart from that, okay, majority of these populations are dependent on agriculture. For example, in India, if you see, even now also, okay, nearly 50% of the population dependent on agriculture for their survival. And we have seen, right, climate change, if it is occurring, then it is majorly impacting the agriculture, right? So because of this, and also high population densities are there, okay, that is also one of the threat. For example, if you say, developing nations such as India faces disproportionate socio-economic impacts of climate change due to high population densities, okay, and dependence on climate sensitive sectors, that is like agriculture, all these things, and also limited adaptive capacities. Okay, all these things are having a negative impact on the developing countries. Okay, for example, socio-economic impacts. For example, in case of agriculture, if you see, erratic monsoon is not coming, means not, sometimes monsoon is giving more rainfall, sometimes is very less rainfall. Okay, so erratic rainfall, and also rising temperatures, okay, and frequent droughts, all these things will have an impact on the crop yield. Okay, the productivity of the agriculture is reduced. If productivity is reduced, means what will happen? Food security will have a threat, right? So apart from that, endangered water resources. For example, because of increasing in the global temperature, whatever the Himalayan glaciers are there, right, they are melting. Okay, so once the glaciers are melting, time being, our rivers, North Indian rivers, whatever that are there, they will have abundant water will be there. But with the time, once these glaciers are melted completely, what will happen? There won't be any water. And apart from that, because of this erratic rainfall also, there won't be any water in the rivers, and also drought conditions, everything will occur. Once drought conditions, all these things are occurring, no water, then you can imagine the survival things. Okay, so retreating Himalayan glaciers, reduced river flow, while erratic rainfall triggers both floods and droughts. Okay, so apart from that, impact on the health sector, what is happening? Okay, these vector-borne diseases generally can survive more in warm and humid conditions. Okay, now because of increase in temperature, these warm and humid conditions are spreading, right, latitudinally and altitude wise. Okay, so because of this, these vector-borne diseases also spreading to new regions, okay, that is latitudinally and altitudinally. Okay, so apart from that, it is also increasing the mortality rates, everything. Okay, so apart from that, economically, how they are impacting, say, climate induced disasters, because frequency of droughts, frequency of cyclones, floods, everything are increasing. So because of that, infrastructure is getting impacted, because bridges are washed away, railway tracks are washed away. Okay, so economically it is impacting. Apart from that, livelihood survival will also get impacted. Okay, so already these countries are poor, and if livelihood thing is impacted, these people will become further poor, right? So inequality will increase in the country. Okay, so if you see, okay, livelihoods and infrastructure and livelihood will get impacted, and increases inequality, poverty, and migration pressures will be there. So to address this challenge, India must pursue a dual strategy of mitigation and adaptation. So these are the two terms are there, mitigation and adaptation. So mitigation is nothing but we will try to reduce the emissions itself, okay, for example, I will use renewable energy. So see, if I use coal power thermal power plants, lot of gases, greenhouse gases, everything will be released. But if I use solar, wind, so this CO2 emissions can be reduced, right? So I need to invest in those technologies which will reduce the release of these greenhouse gases, all these things, okay? So all these technologies will come under this mitigation. So on mitigation, promoting renewable energies, electrical mobility, that is e-vehicles, afforestation will help reduce emissions. Initiatives like International Solar Alliance reflects India's leadership. Apart from that, adaptation is nothing but already something has happened, okay? So to that negative things or something which has happened, we need to adapt ourselves, because already we have seen, according to IPCC, some events has already taking place, that is temperature has been increased. So something temperature is increased means we need to adjust to that increasing in temperature, okay? So global warming means sea levels are rising, so we need to adapt to such things, okay? So all these things will come under this adaptation. So strengthening climate resilient agriculture, that is drought resistance, okay, because some regions are not getting rainfall, so they are leading to drought conditions. So we need to invest in those things, okay, or make new plants which can survive in drought conditions also, okay? And efficient irrigation, enhancing disaster preparedness. Already something negative has happened, so we need to prepare for the disaster preparedness. And also developing urban climate resilient infrastructure are very key for this one, okay? So if we invest more on this, or if we look into this mitigation and adaptation strategies, at least we can cope up and we can survive and we can move ahead, okay? So we need to go both in hand, because already some changes are occurred, so for that adaptation is needed. But further, to reduce the changes that are going to occur, we need to focus more on mitigation also, okay? So let's go to the next question. So discuss the global warming potential of different greenhouse gases. Why is carbon dioxide the most significant contributor despite lower global warming potential compared to other gases, okay? So first we will see what is this global warming potential. It is, see, any gas, okay, which has capacity to attract more and more heat and which is causing the global warming, okay? So compared to the carbon dioxide, okay, when we compare to the carbon dioxide, okay, how much it is attracting and causing the greenhouse effect, all these things is nothing but called as global warming potential of that gas, okay? Let's read the definition. The global warming potential is metric that compares the heat trapping, okay? This is what I was saying, right? Heat trapping ability of various greenhouse gases, okay, relative to carbon dioxide, means compared to the carbon dioxide, how much capacity those gases have to attract, okay, the heat, so that they will cause greenhouse effect, okay, related to carbon dioxide over a specified period of time, that is generally taken as 100 years, okay? So the global warming potential of different gases, okay, for example, we have seen, right, the major greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, okay, water vapor, all these things are major greenhouse gases, right? So let's see the carbon dioxide, okay? So assign a global, because everything earlier here we have seen, right, with respect to the carbon dioxide, so the global warming potential of carbon dioxide is taken as 1 unit, but the problem with the carbon dioxide is its lifetime in the atmosphere is very high, more than 100 years it can stay in the atmosphere. So the longevity is very high, and also the concentration is also very high, okay? So compared to other greenhouse gases, the concentration of carbon dioxide is very high in the atmosphere, okay? So let's read. Assigned a global warming potential of 1 but persists in the atmosphere for centuries, okay? Methane, if you see, even the global warming potential is very high, okay, 28 to 34, okay? But the problem, the good thing about methane is its lifetime in the atmosphere is very less, hardly 12 years somewhere, okay? So though it remains for about 12 years, means it will have very less lifetime in the atmosphere. Apart from that, nitrous oxides also, if you see, global warming potential is high, okay, within the atmosphere, but the lifetime exceed hardly 100 years, 100 to 120 years, like that. But here it will be centuries together, it will stay, and the concentrations are also very high for carbon dioxide. Apart from that, chlorofluorocarbons and hydrofluorocarbons, these gases, okay, are having very high global warming potential, okay? So if you see, have global warming potential ranging from thousands to tens of thousands due to high radiative efficiency and long persistence, okay? So these are the major gases and their global warming potential. But why carbon dioxide is having major impact of greenhouse effect? Because I have discussed, right, one is the lifetime is very high, and second one is its concentration is very high, okay? For example, if you see, despite its lower global warming potential, carbon dioxide is the most significant contributor to the global warming because of its concentration and longevity. Is it clear? And see, while methane and nitrous oxides are more potent because their global warming potential is high, okay, per molecule. Their atmospheric abundance is far low, means their concentration in the atmosphere is very low compared to the carbon dioxide. For example, if you see anthropogenic activities like fossil fuel uses, okay, deforestation, cement production, all these things are releasing huge amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, okay, in a massive scale. Its cumulative nature makes it the dominant driver of long-term climatic change, okay. This is the reason why carbon dioxide is having very high global warming impact, okay. So what we can do, okay, so if we know the carbon dioxide concentration is very high, so if we can focus, okay, whatever the programs or whatever the things research we are doing, so if we focus more on reducing the carbon dioxide content, okay, emissions, then can we at least control this climate change or global warming, whatever that is occurring? Yes, okay. So we need to focus and do research in that aspect, okay. Let's go to the next question. Explain the causes and consequences of stratospheric ozone depletion, okay, and how effective has international cooperations been in addressing this issue. So what it is saying, stratospheric ozone is depleting. So we know, right, different layers of earth are there, troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, all these things, and we know this ozone is there in the stratosphere, okay. And what is what this ozone is doing there, this ozone is blocking, okay, some of the UV rays. For example, UVC is completely blocked by this ozone, and UVB is also, most of the UVB rays are also blocked by this ozone. But assume that if this ozone layer which is blocking these ultraviolet rays, if this ozone layer has been reducing its thickness, or that is nothing but called as ozone hole formation, then can I say this UVB directly will come towards the earth surface, right? If it comes directly to the earth surface, it will have lot of negative impacts. For example, it will reduce the photosynthetic activity, okay, it falls on our skin cancers, cataracts will be there, okay, agriculture productivity will be reduced, okay. So even if it falls on the water bodies or aquatic systems, okay, there also the fish population or aquatic organisms, their lifespan will be reduced. So a lot of negative impacts are there, we'll see, okay. So but let's see what is this ozone. The ozone layer in the stratosphere acts as a protective shield absorbing harmful ultraviolet B radiation, okay. So what caused, okay, the release of, or what is the mechanism that is happening, okay, because see earlier there are certain gases which are called as chlorofluorocarbons are there, okay. So these chlorofluorocarbons are man-made gases, okay. So during their invention, we believe that this is one of the best invention that human ever has made, because these are helping in cooling, or it helps us in storing the food, okay, and making our conditions very comfortable, because ACs will help in cooling the temperatures, right? So we believed that this is the best invention, but later we came to know that the gases which are used in this one are reaching the stratosphere and they are depleting the stratosphere, okay. So which is leading to the ozone hole. So what are those gases? Chlorofluorocarbons, halogens, carbon tetrachloride and methyl chloroform. All these gases, when they are released into the atmosphere, they are reaching the stratosphere, and once these gases are impacted by these ultraviolet rays, okay, so these gases will try to release chlorine and bromine atoms, and each chlorine atoms will try to destroy thousands of ozone molecules, okay. So if ozone molecules are destroyed, means can I say the ozone layer thickness will keep on reducing. So that thickness reduction of ozone layer is nothing but called as ozone hole formation, which is prominently seen over Antarctica, okay. So because the conditions are very cold there, okay, so these are leading to formation of ozone hole. But what is happening? Consequences of formation of ozone hole, what are that? Increased UVB radiation reaching the earth causes high incidence of skin cancers, cataracts and immune suppression in the humans, okay. Apart from that, it also damages phytoplanktons, the foundation of aquatic food chains, and reduction in the crop productivity. Apart from that, ozone depletion also impacts atmospheric circulation, which will have impact on the climatic systems, okay. So these are all the consequences of UV rays, especially UVB, when they reaches the earth surface because of depletion of the ozone layer. So what are the international efforts that have done, okay. So there is a protocol which is called as Montreal Protocol, which came in 1987. So in this Montreal Protocol, they focused more on phase-wise reduction of these ozone depleting substances, okay. So because of reduction of these ozone depleting substances, okay, recent reports are showing that the ozone layer has started once again coming back to its original position. Okay, means the thickness has been slowly recovering. Okay, so that is happened because of this program. Okay, so earlier the chlorofluorocarbons, all these things they have used, right? Now what they have done is they started replacing these ozone depleting substances with some other. So in that process, CFCs are being replaced with HFCs, okay, hydrofluorocarbons. So hydrofluorocarbon is not an ODS, okay, but the problem with hydrofluorocarbon is it is having, earlier we have seen, right, very high global warming potential. So that's why this Montreal Protocol, whatever that was brought in 1987, it was amended in 2016 through Kigali Agreement, okay, through which this they want to reduce even the hydrofluorocarbons, and they want to replace these things with the some other gases so that we can reduce this ODS in the atmosphere, which will not reduce the thickness of ozone layer. Okay, so the Montreal Protocol of 1987 is widely regarded as the most effective environmental treaty. It mandated phased reduction of ozone depleting substances. Amendments such as Kigali Amendment 2016 addressed hydrofluorocarbons, though not ozone depletion. Okay, they are potent greenhouse gases, which I have discussed, right? So what is the thing? It is one of the most successful treaty because every country, developed country or developing country, okay, all countries came together and fought for this one, and they started reducing all this ODS, and the result we can see that ozone layer once again is recovering back. Means universal efforts were there, okay, by all the countries. So the same way, if the same universal efforts are there with respect to the climate change also, then we can have the best output or best results will be there with respect to coping of climate change events also. Is it clear? So we'll go to the next question. What is acid rain? Okay, so discuss its causes, ecological and economic impact with special reference to India. So with respect to India, they are asking, okay, so first we'll see what is acid rain. See, whatever the nitrogen related or sulfur related compounds are there, okay, whether it is vehicular pollution or natural sources like volcanic eruptions, okay, or industries, okay, whenever they are releasing these sulfur and nitrogen compounds, they will reach the atmosphere, okay. In the atmosphere, when they react with the moisture there present, okay, they will form into what is called as sulfuric acid and nitric acid, okay. So this sulfuric acid and nitric acid will once again come back towards the earth's surface, either in the form of dry form or through rainfall. Through precipitation, it can come back to the earth's surface. Okay, once it comes back to the earth's surface, as their pH is lesser, because these are acids, right? Okay, so they will react with soil, they will react with the forest, okay, and aquatic ecosystem, it will increase the pH. Okay, so we have seen that coral reefs will get impacted because of ocean acidification. So a lot of negative impacts are there. So first we'll see what is the definition here. Acid rain refers to precipitation, whether it will be in the form of rain, snow, fog, with abnormally low pH. Low pH means acidity is increasing, okay, caused by the atmospheric deposition of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. Okay, if you can see, okay, nitrogen, sulfur, when they are related things, when they reach the atmosphere, reacting with the moisture, okay, and coming back as hydrogen sulfide and nitric acid, okay, sulfuric acid and nitric acid. Not okay. So formation process also I have discussed, right? So these gases released from coal-based thermal power plants, industrial emissions, vehicles and smelters react with water, oxygen and other chemicals to form sulfuric acid and nitric acid. This is what I have discussed, right? Okay, which fall back as acid precipitation. Okay, so what are the impacts? For example, ecological impacts. For example, if you see when this acid rain is falling on the forest, okay, it will impact the leaves, all these things, right? Chlorophyll, so photosynthesis, everything will be impacted. So the productivity of these things will be reduced. Apart from that, when it falls directly on the soil, okay, so leaching of the soil will take place. Okay, the useful nutrients will go away. Okay, so because of that, the soil productivity will be reduced. Okay, once soil productivity is reduced means agriculture productivity, whatever that is going to occur, will also reduce. Apart from that, when it falls in the fresh water bodies, okay, it will increase the acidity of the water, that is ocean acidification will occur. So coral reefs or whatever the marine biodiversity, whatever that is there, it will get impacted. Okay, so apart from that, what are the economic impacts? So once this rain, acid rain is falling on the monuments or buildings or infrastructure, okay, or crop yield, everything will be reduced. Best example in this case is our Taj Mahal. Okay, so because of the Mathura oil refinery and some of the industries that are there surrounding in that region, okay, so acid rain is taking place in the Taj Mahal. Okay, because of that one, discolorization of Taj Mahal has taken place. Okay, so That's the negative impact when we see with respect to Indian context. Okay, so in India we know, right, we need to become a developed nation, right? So for any developed country, okay, energy, use of energy is very very important. And even today also in India the most useful form of energy is coming from the coal. Okay, so we know, right, when coal is burned, lot of greenhouse gases in that process, sulfur related or nitrogen related, everything is being released, right? So apart from this, vehicular pollution, agriculture, okay, intensification, everything are releasing a lot of nitrogen related compounds, sulfur related compounds, right? So we cannot compromise on our economy, right? So this is the major thing that is occurring. So we need to see a balance. Okay, we need to take certain initiatives so that the sulfur related compounds should be reduced from these emissions. Okay, so because we can't compromise on our development, right? So both economic development and ecological thing should go both hand in hand, then only we can progress as a whole, right? So these are the issues with the Indian context. So what are the mitigation strategies? What we have to do is stringent emission norms should be there. That is, if any industry is releasing certain pollution, so we have to check that one. Okay, so apart from that, adoption of flue gas desulfurization in power plants, okay, means the sulfur component will be reduced from this one. Apart from that, use of low sulfur fuels, okay, and promotion of renewable sources, regional cooperation under frameworks like long range transboundary air pollution agreement. Though India is not a member, but what has happened because of this agreement is in northern India, northern Europe, okay, or especially we can say EU, entire EU, and also northern America, okay, the acid rains in these two countries have been drastically reduced because of this framework. Okay, India should also see certain things, so that similar sort of things, so that the acid rain concentration, everything will be reduced in the country also. Okay, so see, acid rain is not just having an impact on economy, but also on health perspective or food security. Okay, so we have to invest in strategies or certain things so that we can reduce this concentration of acid rains, so that the survival of progress of humans, everything will be there, along with the ecology and economic development. Okay, so we'll go to the next question. Critically examine the causes and consequence of air pollution. So they're asking causes and consequence of air pollution in India. What policy measures have been adopted to address this challenge? Okay, so let's see what is this one. So air pollution, what is air pollution? See, air pollution is any undesirable changes, okay, anything that is undesirable changes that are occurring in the atmosphere that can have negative impact either on living organisms or on the environment as a whole itself. Okay, so these undesirable changes that are occurring in the air, it is called as air pollution. For example, vehicles are there, okay, vehicles are releasing lot of gases, okay, industries are there, they are releasing a lot of gases. Okay, so all these things whatever that are releasing, okay, so these generally, okay, pollutants, okay, because they are changing the composition of the atmosphere, okay, increasing the abnormal aspects which are having negative impact. Okay, so these are already called, these all are called as primary pollutants. When these primary pollutants are reacting between them, they are leading to some other new pollutants are found which are called as secondary pollutants, and best example of secondary pollutant is ozone. Okay, so these are changing the composition of the atmosphere which are having undesirable impacts. Okay, so that is why that is nothing but called as air pollution. So what are the causes? There are two types of causes, we can say anthropogenic causes and natural causes are also there. So for example, anthropogenic causes are nothing but, as I said, right, vehicular, industrial, okay, and burning of fossil fuels, everything will comes under human. Okay, so vehicular emissions, coal based thermal power plants, industrial processes, construction activities, crop residue burning, and household biomass usage, all these things are leading to air pollution. Apart from that, naturally, okay, dust storms also contribute, particularly in the North India. Okay, all these factors are causing air pollution. So what are the consequences of this air pollution? For example, health wise, if I see, so in the air pollution, particulate matter, okay, so this particulate matter, especially when we inhale, okay, they will go inside our lungs and they will have respiratory issues, lung disorders will be there, cardiovascular diseases will be there. Okay, a lot of negative impacts are there because of this one on health. So fine particulate matter PM 2.5 and PM 10 penetrates deep into the lungs, causing respiratory diseases, cardiovascular problems, and premature deaths. And how And what are the consequences on the economy? Air pollution reduces, okay, reduces labor productivity in the country. Not just it reduces the labor productivity, it is already having negative impact on the health, right? So can they work efficiently? No, right? So, and also burden will be there on the healthcare system, okay? So air pollution reduces labor productivity, strains healthcare system, and impacts agriculture by impairing photosynthesis. And also on the environment, pollutants like sulfur dioxide, okay, nitrogen oxides contribute to acid rain, and just now we have seen what are the negative impacts, while black carbon accelerates glacier melts in the Himalayas. So all these are the negative impacts on health, economically, and also environmentally. So what are the policy measures that are adopted? Because see, if you see the question, what they are asking, what are the policy measures that have been adopted to address this climate change, right? So what are the policy measures that are adopted by the government of India? National Clean Air Program, which was launched in 2019, which is targeting particulate matter, okay? They want to reduce the concentration of particulate matter by 20 to 30%, okay, by 2024 in 122 cities. Apart from that, graded response action plan, especially this was adopted in the region specific, like in northern, in the Delhi region, Delhi NCR region. Apart from that, introduction of BS6 fuel norms, okay, these fuel, okay, whatever these BS6 vehicles are there, right, okay, these vehicles will try to reduce emissions of sulfur especially, okay, and also the fuels which will try to reduce less sulfur, all these things, okay. So equivalent, and this BS6 everything were taken based on Euro 6 norms, okay, so equivalent to Euro 6 standards. And renewable energy promotions and Ujjwala Yojana, okay, to reduce biomass burning. And apart from that, air quality index is there, okay, so which will give public information and awareness about what is the air concentration, how much pollution is there, all these things are there. So these are some of the policy measures adopted by the government of India. But still, in spite of taking all these measures, still certain challenges are persistent in the country. For example, weak enforcement is there, okay, urban rural gaps are there, and also lack of regional cooperation, okay. For example, in winter, if you see, okay, entire Delhi is covered with all this smog, all these things, right? So that is because lack of regional cooperation, okay. So all these challenges are there. So if we can address these things, okay, the air pollution can be reduced. And if air pollution is reduced, means health wise, economical wise, environmental wise, in every aspect we can have benefits. Is it clear? So we'll go to the next question. Discuss the cause and impacts of water pollution in India. Okay, earlier it is air pollution, now it is water pollution in India. Suggest measures to ensure sustainable management of water resources. Okay, so what is water pollution? Okay, we'll see what is the definition. Water pollution occurs when harmful substances like industrial effluents, okay, domestic sewage, agriculture runoff, or plastics contaminates the rivers, lakes, or groundwater. The same way how abnormal things that are there in the atmosphere, air pollution, the same thing, whatever the industrial effluents, okay, or sewage, everything, when they mix in the normal water, that is lakes, rivers, groundwater, they lead to what is called as water pollution. Okay, so what are the causes of this one? Because industry, okay, rapid urbanization is occurring, rapid industrialization is occurring, okay. So because of that one, more and more industries, means these industries will release some effluents, right? So once these effluents are without any treating, okay, if they are released into water body, then they will change the quality of the water, right? So if someone is taking that water, then they will have lots of health impacts, right? Okay, diarrhea, dysentery, everything will occur. Okay, apart from that, untreated sewage, okay, untreated sewage, water sewage is nothing but household activity, okay, that sewage, whatever that is coming, if it is also without any treating, if they mixed with the ocean, any water body, the same negative impacts will be there on health and everything. Apart from that, excessive fertilizers and pesticide use is also acting as an impact on water quality, because we know, right, because of pesticides and fertilizers, okay, there is a phenomena which is taking place, which is called as eutrophication, that is nutrient richness of water bodies is taking place. So because of this nutrient rich, what is happening is a kind of algal bloom is occurring on the surface, okay. So entire surface will be covered with a green patch, okay. So once it is completely covered with green patch, the sun rays cannot penetrate inside, okay. Once sun rays is not penetrating, photosynthesis is not taking place inside the water. No photosynthesis, no oxygen release. So whatever the limited oxygen is there, that is being consumed by the species like fish, whatever that is there, okay. And also on the other hand, decomposition is taking place, so more and more oxygen is consumed. So with the time, what is happening, entire oxygen will be removed from the water body. Once oxygen is gone, then aquatic ecosystem will be collapsed. Okay, so that water body will become waste. Okay, so apart from that, unregulated mining. Okay, because of mining activity, huge air pollution and water pollution are also occurring. So all these are the causes of water pollution. So what are the impacts? So waterborne diseases such as cholera, okay, dysentery and hepatitis causing high morbidity and mortality. Okay, and groundwater contamination with the arsenic and fluoride possesses chronic health risk in the states, especially of West Bengal and Rajasthan. Apart from that, aquatic biodiversity decreases, okay, as dissolved oxygen levels fall, while eutrophication, this is what I have explained, right? Eutrophication caused by nutrient pollutant triggers fish kill. Apart from that, economically also, polluted water reduces agriculture productivity, fisheries output and tourism potential. So these are all the impacts of water pollution. Okay, so what are the measures taken by the government of India? Okay, so Namami Gange mission, which was taken in 2014, so it is nothing but it is an integrated river rejuvenation plan. They want to clean the Ganga river, right? Okay, so apart from that, national water policy 2012, it emphasizes on sustainable water management. Apart from that, setting effluent standards and common effluent treatment plants, especially for the industries. I told, right, industries will release a lot of effluent, right, which has very toxic chemicals will be there. So before releasing them into the water bodies, they have to be treated and then they can be released, so that the levels of water pollution will be reduced. Okay, so apart from that, Jal Jeevan mission ensures safe drinking water to the households, and wetland rules are also brought for conservation of the ecosystem. So all these things are the measures taken by the government of India. So apart from that, okay, what we need to do, we need to take the measures like decentralized wastewater treatment, okay, river basin management and stricter industrial compliance and public participation. If all these things go in hand, then we can reduce the water pollution also, so that it will have a better effect on human health and ecology. So let's go to the next question. Critically evaluate the role of environmental impact assessment, EIA, in balancing developmental needs with ecological sustainability in India. So first we need to know what is this environmental impact assessment. See, before starting any project, okay, whether it is a dam or any developmental activity, okay, so before starting that one, we will do what are the impacts, means if I construct this project, what are the negative impacts and positive impacts that are there on the ecosystem or environment. So first we will do evaluation of all these things, and then we will see if positives are good, then we will go ahead with the project. If negatives are more, we won't discard this project. Instead of that one, we will try to change the design of this project so that the negative impacts on the environment will be reduced. Because for us, development is very important. We should not compromise on the economic development. On the same hand, we should not compromise the environment also, because both should go hand in hand. Okay, then only we can develop into a developed nation, okay, by protecting the environment. So we should not compromise on development. So we have to change the design so that negative impact will be reduced. So all these things will be seen in this environmental impact assessment. So let's read. Environmental impact assessment is a policy tool that systematically evaluates the potential environmental consequences of proposed projects before their implementation. Before their implementation only we will see, okay, and it was made statutory under Environmental Protection Act 1986. Okay, so what is the role of environmental impact assessment? What it will do? Okay, so the primary role of environmental impact assessment is to predict and mitigate adverse impact of projects such as mining, okay, dams, industries and other infrastructure. Okay, so it promotes sustainable development, because see, sustainable development means we need to develop economically and also we need to protect ecologically also. Okay, so that is nothing but sustainable development. So it promotes sustainable development by ensuring that economic growth does not come at the cost of irreversible ecological damage. Okay, so apart from that, public participation was also made mandated, okay, under EIA notification 2006, which enhances transparency and inclusiveness. Okay, because the local people will be participated and they will give their opinion. Okay, so all these things will be incorporated and there will be some checks and balances will be there while the projects are being implemented, so that the less impact will be there on the environment as it is intended. Okay, so what are the challenges? Okay, critics are highlighting. Okay, so for example, say the intention of bringing this one is to reduce negative impact, but recently some dilutions of the clauses are occurring. Okay, and also a lot of industries are getting exemptions, and also especially if you see this post facto clearances, means we can implement any project, okay, but after that one they are checking what are the impacts of this one, so that is useless, right? So let's read. Critics highlights issues like dilution of norms, inadequate public consultation, poor enforcement of conditions and post facto clearances. Apart from that, The draft EIA notification of 2020 was also criticized for reducing the scope of public participation and providing more exemptions to the industries. Okay, what is the use of giving more exemptions to the industries? Okay, and also the capacity constraints and political pressure often undermine the actual objective of the assessment itself. Okay, so then entire goal of this EIA will be collapsed, right, because of these pressures, everything. Okay, so these are some of the challenges that are there. So what we can do? Okay, so we need to bring some transparency in this one, and also independent body should be brought so that they will do all the evaluation in a non-biased manner. Okay, all these things should be done. For example, if you say strengthening, it requires greater transparency should be there, independent appraisal body should be there, use of modern tools like GIS and remote sensing, and capacity building of regulatory institutions and involving local communities, and ensuring post clearance monitoring are equally very vital for this one. Okay, so these are the things that they have to do so that we can protect the environment along with the economic development. So both should go hand in hand, then only we can progress as a whole, as a country, and we can develop. Is it clear? So let's see the last question. Define carbon footprint. Okay, so discuss its significance in climate change discourse and suggest strategies for reducing India's carbon footprint. So they're asking what is carbon footprint, and rest of the things we'll see what is that. So what is carbon footprint? It is, see, the total amount of greenhouse gas that are released into the atmosphere. Okay, and when they are brought with respect to the carbon dioxide, means that is nothing but carbon equivalent we will call. Okay, so those entire thing is nothing but called as carbon footprint. Okay, so let's read. A carbon footprint is the total amount of greenhouse gases expressed in carbon dioxide equivalent emitted directly or indirectly by an individual, organization, product or country. Okay, so all these emissions, okay, comes together as carbon footprint, and it includes emissions. See, carbon footprint is nothing but all the greenhouse gases that are released into the atmosphere, right? So from where these are coming? They are coming from energy or transportation industry, agriculture. Okay, that is nothing but methane, nitrous oxide, everything are coming from agriculture, right? Even lifestyle choices such as dietary patterns and also consumption patterns, all are also having a carbon footprint. For example, if you say vegetarian diet, it will have very less carbon footprint. Non-vegetarian diet, it will have very high carbon footprint. For example, okay, livestock is there, they will release huge amount of methane, right? So that is nothing but it is having a kind of carbon footprint on the atmosphere, right? Okay, so let's see what are the significance. See, if you know, okay, if you know the carbon footprint of some country is very, very high, so we know the actors who are releasing more carbon footprint, right? So accordingly policy measures will be brought so that we can reduce the carbon footprint. Okay, so and also if you see the developed countries, especially okay, North America and Europe, they are the historically responsible for the release of huge amount of okay carbon footprint, and their per capita emissions of carbon footprint is also very, very high compared to the developing countries. Okay, let's see. Okay, significance. Carbon footprint quantify the responsibility of actors. Responsibility of the actors in contributing to global warming, thereby providing a measurable basis for climate policy. Okay, apart from that, for instance, developed nations historically have a larger per capita footprint, while emerging countries like India face the dual challenge of development and emission reduction. Already they have developed and they have released huge amount. Okay, now we want to develop, and in the process of development we need to start more and more industries, and still we are using coal thermal power plants. Okay, they will release huge amount of carbon dioxide, means carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. So carbon footprint obviously will increase. Okay, but on the other side we should see, okay, ecology we need to protect, and we cannot compromise on the economic development. So this is the dual challenge that India is facing. So we need to invest on more renewable things, all these things, right? So apart from that, India's per capita carbon footprint is very, very less. That is hardly 2 tons of carbon equivalent, which is much lower than the global average of 4.7 tons of carbon equivalent. Okay, but if we see individually it is very less, but aggregate if we see, okay, India is the third highest release of greenhouse gases. Okay, for example, the first one stands with China, USA, and later India will come, because India is having huge population. Okay, so if you see, yet its aggregate emissions are the third largest globally due to the population size. Okay, so what are the strategies to reduce carbon footprint of India? It includes energy transition, that is we can shift to the renewable energies like solar, okay, wind, all these things, so that we can reduce coal things, so that emissions can be reduced. Okay, so expanding renewable energy like solar, wind, phasing down of coal, and promoting green hydrogen can help in energy transition. And apart from that, transportation reforms. Okay, nowadays we are focusing more on electric vehicles, right? Okay, so electric vehicles, mass transit systems, and improvement in the fuel efficiency. Okay, for example, BS6 norms, everything are part of it. Okay, and sustainable agriculture. We have seen, right, agriculture is contributing methane, huge amount of methane, right? So efficient irrigation, reduction in fertilizer use and methane capture, if you do, then we can reduce the carbon footprint. Apart from that, behavioral changes, okay, that is earlier I have discussed, right? Food patterns, everything will also have impact, right? So reduce wastage, energy efficiency, okay, energy efficient appliances and dietary shifts can also reduce the carbon footprint. Apart from that, policy instruments like carbon pricing, okay, stricter emission standards and green building codes, everything will also have a positive impact, okay, on the carbon footprint. Means they will try to reduce the carbon footprint. Okay, so we need to see that carbon footprint will be reduced. So for that, we need to do more research on new renewable things, okay, or energy efficient technologies, all these things. Okay, then we can grow both, okay, on economic wise and also ecologically also we can protect, and sustainability will be there in the country. Okay, so we came to end of this session where we have discussed all the 10 questions in detail. So if any one of you are facing any other issue, please contact directly to the institute so that we can discuss any issue is there, or apart from that we can directly contact through teacher support system where we can help you. Okay, so I hope you got some inputs from this video. Okay, so all the very best for your exam. Thank you.